What's going on, guys? J-Dogging here with your second Learn to Play Heroes of the Storm series. We're working on the rest of the warriors today, going through them, talking about their moves, just generally seeing what they can and cannot do. Maybe bring out some situations for you guys where they would be most optimal, if not the best, course of action. Of course, if you like what you're hearing, comment, like, subscribe, give me feedback. I need that feedback. I want to know how I'm presenting this to you guys, if it's in a good format, if you like it, all that stuff. But let's get into it. We're going to start out with Relic today and go through most of the bottom half of the warriors. If you have missed the first half of the warriors, you can go on our page, look for our Learn to Play Heroes of the Storm Warrior 1 episode. It'll talk about the warriors on the top list right here. So you will not have to worry about that. Go back to that, fill yourself in, all that stuff. But let's start it out today with Relic. Starting out with his Skeletal Swing. What he does is he swings in front of you to deal 116 damage and slows enemies for 40% for 2.5 seconds. This deals double damage to non-heroic units. For those of you who do not know what that means, any non-heroic units are basically minions or a boss. Anything that you cannot pick in the hero select screen is considered a non-heroic unit. Kind of pretty self-explanatory. The swing is basically an arc in front of him dealing 116 damage and initiating that huge slow effect. That slow effect could really turn around a lot of battles if hit on the right hero. 2.5 seconds is a lot for a slow, so you can definitely use that strategically, or you can just kind of spam it out and hope it works kind of thing. But more or less, that's his Q ability. A lot of Relic, you will see, has a lot of slow abilities, so he's more of the general, hey, you're not escaping very fast, so everybody else can catch up and just blast you to holy hell. But our next ability is our W ability, Drain Hope, which grabs an enemy hero's soul, dealing up to 20% of their maximum health as damage and healing you for up to 20% of your maximum health while you are nearby over 4 seconds. You are slowed by 20% while this is active, which is good. The slow is really good. It's really balanced for him, especially because, like it says, as long as you are nearby, it'll be channeling this spell. And yes, you can move, but you will be slowed by that 20%. If you did not have that 20% slow, it'd be a little OP, because you'd be able to keep up with every character, and it'd basically be a free 20% drain to their maximum health and a free 20% heal. And who wants that OP stuff, right? Next, we have Wraith Walk, which separates you from your body, becoming unstoppable and gaining movement speed, accelerating up to 50% over 2.5 seconds. When Wraith Walk ends or is cancelled, your body jumps to your Wraith. Basically, more or less, what this is another ghost form, as if you're not already dead enough. It's a ghost form that comes out that you can control willingly from your body, which gives you the ability to basically more or less teleport. I don't really want to say teleport. I guess just move positions, but you will be able to control this Wraith as you're moving away or into a battle, but your body will still be lingering there. That's what a lot of people do not understand, is your physical body will still be in the same location, not in a stasis, not in invulnerable, but taking damage. So as you're in a Wraith Walk, your physical body will still be taking damage. So if you use it at the wrong time and your body and they basically kill you before you end your Wraith Walk, you will die. So it's definitely one of those moves that you want to use in certain situations when you have enough health to get away. And yeah, basically just don't die. Don't die. That's literally the story behind this. It's used as an escape, but it could backfire really bad if you use it at the wrong time. Moving on to his passive, his Undying ability. Become a ghost when you die and resurrect upon reaching full health. Your abilities and talents do not damage anybody while dead, but will still heal you up to 50% of their normal amount, causing you to cheat death. So basically, once Leoric dies, he will not actually die and be sent to the Nexus realm. He will actually be in his Wraith form and be able to have that vision as if a normal player and be able to walk around the map. But none of his abilities will be able to do any damage. However, using your abilities will cause you to heal your bar faster, and the more your bar is healed, the faster it's healed, the faster you resurrect. So it's kind of a give and take, especially when you're in Wraith form. You will be able to have that vision, you will be able to still go around the map, so that's a big plus. But the downside, not doing any damage, and especially resurrecting at the wrong time while you're trying to get vision, can be very detrimental to your own state. I mean, what's the point of rezzing while you're looking at a team of 5 in the middle of them, and there's then just dying all over again? So that's something you don't want to do. But nonetheless, it'll create vision. You don't necessarily, quote unquote, die every time. And you will want to use your abilities to their maximum potential to make that bar go faster, to make your resurrection come up faster. So that's the Undying Passive ability. Really, it's really unique. That's for sure. That's one way to put it. Of course, as most of you know, there are 2 heroics for each hero in this game. First one for Leoric is Entomb, which creates an unpathable tomb in front of you for 4 seconds. Not really as self-explanatory as everything else, but what it does is it basically creates a wall in front of you. Think of if you were walking up to a graveyard gate, and then the walls to your left and right just kind of extended like 4 or 5 feet. So you would be trapped within that area of that gate and those walls, which is very good, again, for stopping an escaping character or keeping people entrapped in an area to be brought down by your AoE teammates if you do or do not have them. So that's a good ability. I'll be more than happy to go over that more when we go into our more or less hero spotlight, where we go through all the individual talents and all the abilities and see how we can make these characters play to the best of their ability, so you guys can play to the best of your abilities, and we won't have so much salt, because let's face it, Heroes of the Storm is filled with a lot of salt. Unfortunately, it's really hard. Of course, your next heroic ability is March of the Black King, which you will become unstoppable and swing your mace 3 times, healing yourself for 7% of your maximum health for each enemy hero hit, and dealing 183 damage. More or less what it is like your Skeletal Swing, except you will be unstoppable and you will be healing yourself at the same time for each hero hit, and dealing damage, of course. So it honestly depends on the enemy's team composition, what heroic ability you want to choose. The enemy's team composition and your team composition both play factors in what Leoric should choose as his heroic ability, but most consensus will say to go the Entomb ability just for, sake of argument, but we'll analyze that later. It really depends on the composition of the team. But that's Leoric for you. Moving on to Moradin, our little resident dwarf character. We're going to start out with his Q ability, his Storm Bolt, which throws a hammer, dealing 110 damage in a straight line to the first enemy hit and stunning it for 1.5 seconds. More or less self-explanatory. Throws a hammer in a straight line. It'll hit somebody, stun them for 1.5 seconds. They won't be able to move. GG's. Moving on to Thunderclap, deals 96 damage and slows enemies by 25% for 2.5 seconds. This is an AoE effect on Moradin. Once you hit Thunderclap, it'll Thunderclap, more or less, in a radius around you, I would say about 2 feet, maybe, in game length. Kind of, judge that for yourself. We'll look into it a little more later. But Thunderclap's a really good ability, especially if you're going through and killing minions. It can be upgraded to do a lot of damage if you really need to. But then again, Moradin's a warrior, so you're going to have to give and take the damage portion with his tanky portion of the talents. But we're going to get to that soon. Don't worry, we'll get to it in other videos. Hopefully we can get to it sooner than later. Anyway, moving on. Dwarf Toss, your E ability. Leap to a target location, dealing 59 damage to enemies upon landing. More or less, it'll just leap you through the air, whether you want to use it as an escape or to engage. I personally use it as an escape a lot of the time, because what you can do is you can actually dwarf toss yourself out of a fight and then wait for your passive ability to proc, which is Second Wind, which restores 38 health per second when you have not taken damage for 4 seconds. When below 40% health, it is increased to 77 health per second. So basically, Moradin can heal himself when out of combat. And comboed with Dwarf Toss when you're escaping battles can be really useful. Dwarf Toss yourself out of a fight, wait those 4 seconds, heal up a bit, and then go back into the fight. Moradin's a really good sustainable warrior. I don't know why people don't use him as often. I personally actually have been using him a lot more often. He's a really good warrior. I suggest a lot of you start using him, or at least see what he can do. At least play with him. We'll go through his talents one day and create the most optimal build. But anyways, for his first heroic ability, his avatar, which will transform you into an avatar for 20 seconds, gaining 1,124 health. More or less, avatar is basically going to be it looks like a stone form, but I don't want to call it a stone form. Basically just looks like a giant statue walking, just beating everything to the pulp, But Avatar is very good as a heroic, gaining that health when you need it in battle, just adding to his tankiness aspect and giving them that sustainability that he already has, just furthering it more for the team fights. It's really scary. You don't want to see an Avatar Moradin. My suggestion, if you're on the other team, run away until it's gone, because hitting him doesn't really do that much. It really doesn't. Because even when the Avatar goes away, he will still return to a percentage of the health that he was at. So unless you kill him in avatar form, it's not too worth. And then, of course, his second heroic is his Haymaker. Stuns a target enemy hero and wind up a punch, dealing 319 damage and knocking the target back, hitting enemies in the way for 319 damage and knocking them aside. More or less what it is, just straight up kicking a hero for 319 damage and sending him flying back a couple of feet. Anything he runs into will be knocked to the side. Very good for either initiating a fight or getting out of a fight. Kind of like Falstead's wind ability. Of course, this could be used to knock somebody into a tower, or it could be used to knock somebody away from you. Both instances are really good. Haymaker is a really situational thing. Depends on your comp. Depends on how you're playing Marden. All that stuff. But that's Marden for you. Moving on to Rexxar. More or less a little bit newer than Leoric. Rexxar is, of course, a ranged warrior, which is kind of perplexing to some, but it actually works out for him because he has the bear Misha, which does all of his melee tanking damage while he sits back and throws his axe at people, more or less. So starting off with his Q ability, his Spirit Swoop, which deals 141 damage to enemies in a line, slowing them by 30% for 2 seconds. Very good for us, causing people not to escape and getting Misha to get on that person, giving her time to engage them as needed, and just putting that extra damage on them. So the Spirit Swoop, a good slow ability for Rexxar. W is Misha Charge, which causes Misha to charge in a line, dealing 59 damage and stunning enemies for 1.25 seconds. This is a targeted, actually, is it a targeted ability? No, I do not, okay, no. So this is a line ability. Misha charges in a straight line. Whatever she runs into stuns for 1.25 seconds and gets dealt 59 damage. This could be really good if comboed with your Spirit Swoop on the slow. They're slowed and they're stunned, causing people not to get away as fast, getting that extra damage on that you can with Rexxar and his range. And Misha just sitting there taking the damage like a boss. And then, of course, you can't have a hunter without Men-Pet. Men-Pet ability, heal Misha for 714 health over 5 seconds. Self-explanatory. Misha's hurt. Pop your E. Pop your Men-Pet. It's gonna save her life. Don't be afraid to spam that E ability. Let's put it that way. Don't be afraid to keep Misha at full health, because that is where your melee damage and your tankiness is going to come from when it comes to Rexxar. And of course, your passive / active ability is basically controlling Misha. What you do is all your talents are hotkeyed to your D key. D as in dog, not B as in boy. B is for her thing. Your D key will change Misha between a passive stance and an attack stance. So if you want Misha to go in and charge at absolutely everything she sees, have her in attack form. If you want her to break off and follow you, press that D key and she will start following you and disengage any enemy that she is currently fighting. Very useful. Do not forget it. If you do forget it, Misha's just going to go on her own and just start going on a rampage and probably get herself killed. So be on that D ability, be on that key, be ready to hit it when shit hits the fan. course, his first heroic ability is Unleash the Boars, which releases a herd of boars that track down all enemies' heroes in a direction, dealing 110 damage, revealing and slowing enemies by 40% for 5 seconds. What this does is it'll throw up to 5 boars, depending on how many enemies are within the area, and each of the boars will go after one of the enemies, depending on how many are in the area, dealing that 110 damage. It'll reveal them in a location if you cannot see them already, and it will slow them for 40% for 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Let's go up. There was Spirit Swoop is 2 seconds. That is 5 seconds for 40%. That's a lot of slow, children. That's a lot of slow abilities. So, Unleash the Boars, one of the most, a lot of people, I wouldn't say prefer it, but it's kind of actually a 50-50 between Unleash the Boars and Bestial Wrath, which Bestial Wrath will increase Misha's basic attack damage by 150% for 12 seconds. More or less, if you played World of Warcraft before, you know what Bestial Wrath is, you know what it does. Self-explanatory. Basically, it'll empower all of Misha's attacks 150% and cause her to basically get out that tanking damage that she was meant to do. You know, she's a bear. She's meant to do a lot more damage than she originally does. And this Bestial Wrath will cause her to do that. Especially if you tell her to attack a certain squishy target, it'll cause that target to basically be forced to flee out of the battle, bringing in a new, I don't want to say meta, but a new aspect to the team fight of which you are if you are currently in it, depending on the composition, of course. Moving on to Sonia. Sonia, I don't want to say she's really a tanky character. She's actually, honestly, for a warrior, she's honestly one of the most squishy next to Rexar, which I don't really consider him a tank because has the bear, so I consider the bear a tank. But anyways, Sonia I see as more of a bruiser, more going off of her lifesteal abilities and how much damage she can deal, how much life she can take as she's dealing the same damage. Unlike a lot of other characters, she is Fury based, not mana based. We will get to that in a few seconds when we get to the passive abilities. But her first ability is Ancient Spear, which throws out a spear that pulls you to the first enemy hit, dealing 173 damage and briefly stunning them. If this hits an enemy, it generates 40 Fury. So basically what it does, think of Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. If you haven't played Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, basically just think of throwing a spear out, but unlike Scorpion, you go to the spear instead of bringing the enemy towards you. So you will this is actually more of an engage ability rather than pulling somebody towards you like Stitches, for example, whose hook ability will actually pull the enemy towards you instead of where the spear you go towards the enemy. Generating that 40 Fury, putting that damage on them, great engage. Next you have your Seismic Slam, which deals 176 damage to the target enemy and 44 to enemies behind the target. More or less, it's an Earthquake-ish ability in an arc in front of you, dealing that 176 damage to that target enemy, and anything caught in behind will take that 44 damage. Moving on to Whirlwind, dealing 399 damage to nearby enemies over 3 seconds and heals for 20% of the damage dealt. Healing is tripled versus heroes. more or less self-explanatory if you ever have seen what a whirlwind ability does. Basically, think of her spinning in a circle really fast with her swords and just hitting anything in her way. Basically creating a tornado of herself with swords. It's really scary, actually. Yeah. But healing that 20% damage, tripled versus heroes, very good in team fights. You're going to want to use that whirlwind ability a lot. And then moving on to her passive ability, her Fury. She uses Fury instead of mana, which is gained by taking or dealing damage. Using a basic or heroic ability grants 10% movement speed for 4 seconds. So basically, the more she fights, the more she takes damage, the more she's enraged, the more fury she generates, the more she can do what she was meant to do, the more she can throw out her abilities. So getting on top of that fury generation is really what Sonia is all about. If you cannot generate fury, you might as well just not play Sonia at all. Moving on to her heroic ability, her leap. Leaps into the air, dealing 123 damage to nearby enemies and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. This is actually kind of a short leap, kind of like Dwarf Toss, not exactly like Johanna's Spear of Justice. But it'll leap onto an enemy, dealing that damage, stunning whoever's in the area for 1.5 seconds, getting that chance to engage as if you didn't already maybe use your ancient spear to engage. You can leap close, you can leap far. It depends on the battle, but that stun is what really hurts people, and that whirlwind comes in handy. Hold on.